Welcome to a brand new episode of PrivacyCast Season 3. I'm your host, Akarsh Singh, and it's my pleasure to have you on the show today. Today, we are going to deep dive into nothing other than Nigerian Privacy Act. Right? We want to learn about how to do business in Nigeria today. But before we jump into that subject, we also want to introduce our speaker, Bisola Scott. She comes with 5 years of hands-on experience. She has been into this privacy regime for last 5 years. She worked as a privacy manager in Greech, and now she works as a privacy manager in iTech's integrated systems. She has been a privacy professional for last 5 years. She graduated from Nigerian law school, where she completed her law in and graduated in around 2017. And since then, she has been working on and off, and now specifically focused work on Nigerian privacy law implementation. Fascinating journey, Bisola. Your experience truly shines through. Now let's shift our focus, right? Let's get into Nigerian privacy law, right? I think everybody today wants to understand. A lot of people actually tell me, Bisola, right, that how do I get to know so many laws in the world? Because if a company X, let's say Apple or Google or Microsoft, right, they're doing business everywhere in the world. And I'm just taking a few names, I'm just taking the top names, right? But thinking about so many other businesses who are not at that level, but they still have to do compliance or just have to stay active, then I think this is a huge task for any privacy team in the world, right? So want to understand more from you. So how do you see Nigerian Privacy Act, right? How do you see it? Do you think that it is stringent? Do you think it is, around at medium level of difficulty? And how is the implementation going around? So would you like to talk a bit about this, Bisola?
Thank you very much for the introduction, Akash. The Nigeria Data Protection Act was released and assented to by the President on the 12th of June 2023, and it was long overdue, I would say that, and it's a great development, in Nigeria, because we now have a comprehensive legal framework for regulating and overseeing data processing activities in Nigeria. So implementation has started. The Act established the Nigeria Data Protection Commission, and work has started. Prior to the assent of the Act, we had the Nigeria Data Protection Bureau, and now it's no longer the bureau. Now we have the commission that has taken its place, and work has started, awareness has started, implementation has started, stakeholders meeting have started, and we look forward to the coming implementation activities. And professionals are getting abreast with the provisions of the Act and making amendments where required. And as hinted in the Act, they'll probably most essentially be regulations and guidance that will be released, flowing from this Act in the nearest future.
Yeah, and I think, if since you're saying that, implementation has started and awareness has started. So Bisola, how do you see the current Data Protection Commission of Nigeria, and how is the implementation and awareness, or what type of responsibilities the DPC in Nigeria is taking care of, Bisola?
Okay, so the commission itself oversees the processing activities of personal data in Nigeria. It monitors the activities of data controllers and data processors, creates awareness to ensure that data subjects are aware of the provisions of the Act, especially their rights, to enable them enforce this right, make requests when required, and ensure that personal data is processed based on their wishes and desires.
Okay, that's very interesting, and it's good that that compliance journey has started as well as the DPC has started. So overall, in terms of guidance, in terms of implementation, in terms of fines, right? Maybe that awareness grows in Nigeria. I think that's great to know. I think one quick question that comes to my mind, right? Every time I see a privacy law, right? I keep remembering, because when I started my career, right, or when privacy started as a career for everyone, kind of started with GDPR, right? So GDPR was and is the mother of privacy law. So how do you compare? I know you would have definitely done that for your businesses. How do you see, when you compare GDPR to the Nigerian Data Privacy Act, how do you compare it? Do you think that it's around there, or the rights are different? How do you compare it?
Okay, so Nigeria privacy law has always been like a mirror of the GDPR. When we had the Nigeria Data Protection Regulation, even the Act now, it's basically like a mirror of the GDPR, and it's more comprehensive than the prior one. So it contains similar provisions as contained in the GDPR, especially regarding the principles of processing personal data, data protection rights, but there are a few differences. Like the requirement to license a data protection, whether organization or individual or professional, that will be required to conduct audits and provide trainings to data controllers and data processors. So it's basically a mirror, but there are quite a number of differences that differentiate, the laws based on specifics, to Nigeria.
That's great. I think that's great to know that, at least if somebody, so that also means that, see, what you're saying is, what I'm trying to get out of this is, if a company follows, if an organization follows GDPR, then I think if I have followed that or I have implemented that, then similar structure can be implemented. But I think, one thing that Bisola, the biggest problem that we see in India right now is, there's so many people, and there are so much data that is going around. And all this data that is going around for B2C customers specifically is going on the basis of consent, right? So how easy do you think, or what type of provisions are there of consent in Nigerian Data Privacy Act, right? And also a comparison with GDPR, right? Definitely a comparison with GDPR. But how do you see that happening?
Okay, consent provisions in the Act right now is quite similar to that in the GDPR. Like, consent basically means freely giving specified, informed and unambiguous desires or indication of a data subject desires in respect to processing of his or her personal data. And there are certain things that would not be regarded as consent. For instance, silence, implied consent, like tick boxes, which are the things that are also contained in the GDPR. So these things also apply in Nigeria. I don't think there are any major differences in respect to consent in the Act. So it's basically similar requirements,
similar requirements in terms of consent, similar requirements in terms of data subject rights. But I keep asking this question, right? When a country gives a right to be forgotten, when a country gives a right to me, like in India, we have a right, the law just passed and, beautiful things happen around. So as a citizen, I'm really, really happy because as a citizen, I got a right. I got a right to ask a company to forget me, right? So how do you see this happening? How do you see, and if somebody doesn't follow this, let's say I go to a Nigerian company today, and I am a Nigerian citizen, right? And I go to a Nigerian company today, and I ask them to delete my data, right? Please forget me. Can that happen? Or is that happening? What is the truth today? And can that happen?
Oh, yes, definitely. It can happen, but there are exceptions where the company is required to actually retain the data for compliance with legal obligation. They won't be able to delete such data. So when a data subject makes such a request, the company must be able to explain why they will be unable to delete such data. But in essence, when such a request is made, the company is obligated to delete that data, except in certain circumstances like compliance with legal obligation, defense of an action. So in those circumstances, the company will be required to retain such data. So yes, it's a thing in Nigeria, and I'm sure that companies would comply. Yeah.
So has there any company been fined today by the DPC of Nigeria? Any fines or sometimes of issues that we see that have arisen, or do you think that it's still in the phase of setting it up, getting down the line, learning? How do you see the situation in Nigeria today, Bisola?
Prior to the assent of the Act, prior to the passing of the Act itself, we've had companies that have been fined by the regulatory body as a term. But since the Nigerian Data Protection Commission took its place, I don't think there have been any company that have been fined. I think it's still in the setting up stage. Things are still being put together, awareness still being provided to people. But prior to the Act, we've had a number of fines, and currently we are aware that the Commission is actually investigating some companies, including financial institutions. So for now, since the Act was released, I don't think there's been any enforcement orders or fines issued to companies, data controllers or data processors. But I'm sure, based on the fact that they're investigating companies, there should be some sort of issuers of fine and enforcement in Nigeria.
Yeah. And how do you think the law right now applies to the employment data, right? So if we are employees and if it's similar to GDPR, So I'm also thinking that, all the employees also get a lot of data. And see, the problem with an employee data subject request, right, which I keep saying around, is he can come back and then ask for data deletion. And then it becomes a havoc on the team because, whole company now is reading his emails to delete his data and to find out what is business sensitive and not. So, and are there any exemptions for companies which are smaller, right? Like 120 employees, like GDPR said, right? If you're less than 250 employees, right? So, is there some exemption like that in Nigerian law for smaller companies? And also, how do you see the employment data, going around getting affected because of the law?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so regarding employee personal data, there are no exceptions. So all controllers or all employers are categorized at the same level. So, and they're required to apply the same data processing principles, apply to personal data of customers, of data subject, anyone whose personal data they collect and store. So for employees, the same principles are expected to be applied. I know normally it's usually not taken as seriously as customers' data, to an extent. Sometimes companies just forget that, employees are part of the employees' data, actually part of personal data. They should, apply security measures, protect. So it takes a very, very conscious.
Yeah, I feel the real challenge, Bisola, is always, so if I look at governance, right? And when I look at governance in Europe and why it is so nice, there are so many organizations like NOYB, right? Then none of your business, right? Next trends. They are always, trying to find out people who are not complying. Then as a customer, right, people are very active and they are thinking about their privacy. How much do you think people in Nigeria are concerned about their privacy? Do you think a lot now from last 2-3 years? And is it like growing significantly? How do you see privacy as a concern in Nigeria, Bisola?
Well, I would say it has grown since 2019, but I don't think so many people are conscious or even aware of their privacy rights or even bothered, like I don't really think they are so bothered about it. But I think it's growing. We're not where we used to be. So the commission has been taking steps to create awareness. Even now, several steps are being taken by the commission to create awareness. We currently have partnerships to spread the news of privacy, ensure that the data subjects are aware that they have right to request for certain information regarding their personal data. So we're not where we used to be, but we've been making progress, and I'm sure that awareness will increase.
And I also feel like, when I look at countries right around the globe, and when I see, Nigeria and India, I think we both are on a very similar growth path, right? In terms of laws, in terms of per capita incomes, in terms of the job market, right? I think both the countries have grown very fast, and it's great to see both the countries having a law right today. And I want to thank you for having some time for us, right? And also we are near our time, so just want to quickly wrap up. And also because I have a bonus question for my listeners today, and I have a bonus questions for my listeners today. But before that, thank you, Bisola, for shedding light on Nigerian privacy law and its practical implementations. Your expertise has been invaluable. And I wish to all my listeners, guys, I'm coming back with more, right? So this is just the start, right? We are just starting this year. By the way, it's already the 8th month of the year, but still, we are always motivated starting, right? Startup culture is, come on, we have to do this. Okay, so bonus question, Bisola. If somebody is in Nigeria, right? If somebody is in Nigeria who wants to become a privacy lawyer in next 2-3 years, right? Maybe he's in college or maybe he's in a job and he's in Nigeria right now and or around the world, right? I know the approach is similar, right? How do you think somebody can become that, in next 2-3 years? What would be your advice to the new upcoming generation or the people who want to join our journey? What's your advice to them, Bisola?
Okay, basically, a privacy professional doesn't necessarily have to be a lawyer. You could have studied anything in university. So basically, after graduation or after completing your law school, it's important to acquire knowledge. Very, very vital. And we have several courses online. You can start with the GDPR, then move into. We have a number of academies that provide trainings on data privacy, on the core laws, and also on privacy management. So you can take a number of trainings, and also internships are quite important, even from university. If you like to be a professional in data privacy, start internships in privacy firms, law firms that have a privacy practice. And you can start from there to expose you to knowledge about laws and requirements, and also, management of privacy management and data protection management, and how it works in the system. So with internships, acquiring knowledge, internships, reading very wide would help, and following the trends, following enforcement decision issued by the EU and other countries in respect.
So basically you're saying they have to read a lot, right? And that's what I keep telling people.
Yes, you have to read a lot. Yes, because in a particular jurisdictions, you might not have so many decisions or enforcement orders with respect to breach of personal data. So when you expose yourself beyond your jurisdiction, you get exposed to the possibility of.
And thank you, Bisola. I think we just love hearing from you, right? And we wish you all the luck and all the best. And from all my Indian listeners, right? A special thanks to you because we have a lot of Indian listeners for sure of this session. So a lot of thanks to you, and we wish you all the luck and all the best in Nigeria. And maybe because talking to you, I'm getting excited as well. So maybe we'll also open an office in Nigeria soon.
Definitely, yeah, right? I'm excited.
And so Bisola, I think, what would you like to tell our listeners, right? Quickly, would you like to say thanks to them?
Oh yeah, definitely. Thank you for listening. Thank you. I'm sure you've gotten something, one or two, about the Nigeria Data Protection Act, where we are, and what to expect in the future. And yes.
Thank you, Bisola. If you have any questions, you can always reach out to Bisola as well as me. Obviously, I won't say I'm an expert in Nigerian privacy law, but I do understand how global privacy laws work. So I can help you out maybe with some basic questions. But I think Bisola is the person, right? You should write to her maybe on LinkedIn. And if you have, if you want to go in depth and you want to work on that, I think maybe why not, right? I can go down the line with you. And have a nice day, guys. And have a nice day, Bisola. And we will see you again in the next episode in another 10 days. And I'll see you guys. Have a nice day. Bye.